Burden not the lack of Aries, Leo, or Taurus with thy faults, nor make Saturn, Mars, or Venus guilty of thy follies. Thomas Brown. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Secrets of Saturn. My name is Jason Lindgren. I'm your host. Tonight we have Esoteric Scholar Made Manifest. Good evening.
How's it going, man?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well. The one thing I would not call myself is any type of scholar. I appreciate the introduction, but that's kind of my thing is that I go the complete opposite direction of scholarly bullshit. You know, I go down the esoteric path as opposed to the exoteric, which would be scholarly, false facades and the bullshit, well, it's not all bullshit, but it's just, kind of candy coated. It doesn't get to the core, you can think of, I liken it to Saturn itself. You can, think of this as Saturn, the inner body. The actual sphere is the esoteric, that is the inner house of the truth, as opposed to the rings, the outer rings, which is the false lies fed to the masses to keep them beating around the bush, as in you're playing ring around the rosy, you're beating around the bush, you're circling around that inner core at the truth that lies within the bush, hidden on the inside. Think it's like the golden egg hidden on the inside. That's the esoteric. And the scholarly, while there's some good credible history there, most of it is just basically bullshit fed to the masses to keep them beating around that bush.
That's right.
Perpetually, like the Ouroboros, just the serpent eating its own tail, while never actually getting to the true, the truth at the center of it. So yeah, I would not consider myself a scholar. I'm just someone that likes to constantly learn new things, and usually not deterred by any taboo subjects. And most people will get scared of oh, well, that's heavy, that gives me dark feeling, or that's I don't know, these symbols are well. It's information. All information is inherently neutral. It's only one's own perception.
Correct.
that can filter these things as either dark or negative. I mean, unless it's actually imposing its will on someone, in a harmful way to either another being or another being's property, then it's not doing any harm if it's just neutral in itself, which all information is inherently neutral. It's only how one uses that information. It's like, the guns don't kill people, people kill people. That's their intention. The tool itself is just a tool. It's how we use that tool that makes the difference.
I totally agree.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Do you want to talk a little bit about yourself before we go into our subject tonight, which is going to be Saturn?
A little bit about myself is I'm basically... How I got started into all of this is a very interesting... I mean, nothing really significant. It's just I got started in October of 2012, so I have only actually been quote-unquote awakened for not even 2 whole years now. And I've literally just taken off, just taken this stuff and run with it, because when I first had my awakening experience, it was when I saw David Wilcock's 2012 Enigma presentation.
Okay.
Because I got started into all of this, seeing all the mainstream bullshit about 2012 and all the fear-based bullshit.
Oh yes.
And I intuitively knew, I was like, okay, there's got to be, something else here that they're not telling us. And so I decided to start looking into it for myself. And, once I started looking, then everything all the questions that I had ever had started coming to me, like in synchronicity. They just started falling right into my lap. I didn't even have to go looking. I mean, it just started coming to me. Once something comes into your awareness, you start seeing it everywhere. And so that's what launched me on my path. I started off basically connecting all the religions, all the symbols of the religions, all the same universal teachings held within it. And so I basically started off getting really far out there as far as like, I guess you could call it like light worker, stuff. But then after I realized that that's what I've been searching for my whole life, I realized that there was more to it, and the reason why I hadn't found all of this stuff my whole life was because it was deliberately hidden. And so, I mean, that's what I saw as the ultimate crime. I mean, if I was to deem anything as a sin in this universe, it would be the deliberate withholding of information.
I agree with you there.
To me, that is the one thing that I cannot stand is holding out or occulting, hiding information, especially in order to gain, some sort of advantage over everyone else. I mean, in my opinion, everyone should have access freely to all information, and whether they decide that it's not for them, that's their choice. But I mean, everyone should have that choice to be made openly, without either having to be fed bullshit by mainstream media or any of these other institutions like say universities and most corporate owned and operated institutions. So I've decided to go down my own path, which is to counter all of that, which I'm sure most of us are all on that same page and on that same path, is to counteract all of that by literally just disseminating as much information as we can. Be that perceived as good, bad, or ugly. I mean, it's all just information. Although there can be, other extremes to that fall out of balance, like say, there is legitimate fear-based information, but for the most part, that's what we're being fed by these corporate-owned institutions, as opposed to, doing your own research. And although there's so much disinformation and, all the COINTELPRO agents and all that out there, that this is sort of where I'm fortunate myself, is my intuition has always been so strong that I never even had an issue like discerning truth from bullshit or disinformation or fallacy. I mean, it all comes down to, a balanced left and right hemisphere of the brain, a balanced creative essence, especially, being either a writer or a poet or a musician or what have you, that has that creative aspect, as well as being grounded in reality, in this physical as well, with the analytical and the rational, left hemisphere perfectly balanced. Because if we're polarized into one or the other, which Mark Passio brilliantly portrays all of this and breaks it down so perfectly and so poignantly, that, this is how I see things, is that, it's all about balance in this realm. And that's what I strive for, is just to always stay balanced in everything that I do and everything that I see and everything that I study. It's all about balance, everything.
That sounds like a great way to be.
Exactly, man.
Cool. Well, like I said before, I would like to go into the subject of Saturn and its meaning, all the things that, the history that's been drawn upon it. And why don't we start at the beginning, as far back as we can both go to. Its early uses in religions, symbolism, all that, and we'll work our way up to the present time.
Definitely, that sounds good. Okay, as far as I know, originally back in ancient times, Saturn was, and I'm drawing upon research from there is a brilliant presentation called Symbols of an Alien Sky, which is by the Electric Universe Theory with the Thunderbolts Project.
Oh, yes. I've heard of that.
Very, very great research, and very thorough as well. Goes back into all the universal symbols, the back to the times when there was obviously one form of universal language, as well as as well as universal symbols, which are a whole language in itself, as pictographs. So Saturn was originally deemed in the oldest times as the best, quote unquote, the best sun, and Saturn at some point was somehow a sun, and goes back. It also can be connected to the symbol of the eight-spoked wheel that we can find in almost all these ancient cultures, like Sumerian, Mesopotamian cultures. Obviously Native American cultures as well, Asian, Eastern cultures. Everywhere you look, you see the eight-spoked wheel, which we obviously relate, and we can obviously see that it is also the symbol of the zodiac wheel. It's, Ezekiel's wheel, the wheel within the wheel. It's the zodiac wheel, which obviously we all know that Saturn is the ruler of the zodiac. He is the father of the zodiac. He is the old goat. He is the ruler of the house of Capricorn, which is the sign of the goat, the old goat. So that is where, you get into the symbolism of the goat, which is the satyr, which comes from Saturn, which also we have the anagram of Saturn, of STN, when you break down the language and the etymology of the word itself. This is where we get, from Saturn, we get Satan, Saturn is Satan in astrotheology. And all these words have the STN. It's that etymological essence, and this is where we get our modern stories and myths like Santa, of Santa Claus, because Santa is Satan, because Santa has he's got the big belly, I forget exactly all the connections to that off the top of my head, but if if anyone does their research, they will find that indeed this is the case. And also the myth of Santa is, that goes off into a whole nother aspect in itself. It also goes into the sacred mushroom cults of Jesus being the Amanita muscaria mushroom as well. But so again, back to Saturn is the satyr, which the satyr is the goat. It's Pan. It's the goat, and this is where we get satire, and which all comes from Saturn, which is it's why we have Saturn's Day, which is the day of Saturn's Day is known as the Black Sabbath. So that's where we get all these. We get all these, and the black sun is also Saturn, so that is why it's the Black Sabbath, because that's when it was the ancient day of rest, and especially in Judaism. I'm not sure if the Orthodox Judaism, but as far as like Zionism goes, then that's why they take the day off on Saturn's Day or Saturday, because it's the Sabbath, it's the Black Sabbath, Saturn is the black sun.
The color of Saturn is black.
Exactly.
Hence the black robes and all that.
The black robes, the black priesthood. He is known as the black. I refer to as he, because Saturn is the old. He is old Father Time. Is
Kronos, the god of time.
Kronos, which is where we get chronology, and which is time, and this is where we get all the symbols that go along with it, which the symbol of time is the hourglass, and the hourglass is the symbol of the lemniscate, which is the infinity symbol, and so that is also the symbol of the hourglass. And the infinity symbol, we can link this to vortex-based mathematics, because in vortex mathematics, Marco Rodin's work, There are two separate sets of number systems, and the infinity symbol in vortex mathematics is what's known as the bounded infinity, and Saturn being the ruler of time, and he is the keeper of time of this, I like to see it as, of this physical realm of time, is where the bounded infinity, you can think of it as we are eternally going in a cycle of eternal reincarnation. We are constantly coming back and reincarnating in this cycle in what's called the bounded infinity. And in vortex mathematics, you also have the separate set of numbers, which is the pyramid, and it's the 369 axis. And Nikola Tesla also has a brilliant quote that says, if you know the secret of the 369, you hold keys to the universe. And in vortex-based mathematics, the 369 is the intangible realm. It's outside of time. It's outside of the limitations of this physical reality of reincarnation cycle. It is, and at the center of that bounded infinity symbol lies the 0 point, which in plasma physics as well as implosion technology, the 0 point is the point where you pop out of this physical realm of time, this physical reality. So Saturn is the ruler of this physical realm, because in astrotheology as well as astronomy, Saturn is the last visible planet that can be seen with the naked eye. So that is why he's deemed as the ruler of this physical realm, because beyond Saturn, you can no longer see it with the physical eye. So therefore, beyond Saturn would be Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. So those three are, in astrotheology, they are deemed as the intangible realm, or in vortex-based mathematics, the realm outside of time. So that is why he is considered the ruler of time, and in ancient, mythology, in Greek, he was known as Cronus, and also this goes back to the ancient Cana-Phoenicians. Everything that we know of in modern society goes back to the ancient Cana-Phoenicians. Possibly even the modern zodiac that we think of, although there is a lot of evidence to show that the zodiac as well as astrotheology goes further, even much further back than ancient Cana-Phoenicia. But there was a manipulation of the original cycles of time, the original cycles that are aligned with nature. And today, the Roman Catholic Church has completely distorted our perception of our alignment with the cycles of nature and time.
Right. Absolutely.
As far as the 13-moon calendar goes, and the Mayan calendar as well, which has a 13-month calendar with 28 days. And today, it's all corrupted by the Roman Catholic Church and the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, which set off our calendar, which sets off the cycles of nature, which goes completely against all the laws of nature. So it's that Luciferian principle, which, the Luciferian principle is it wants to skew off from the rest of the entire function of the universe and go on its own path. It goes back to the biblical allegories of, Satan wanted to try his hand at becoming God and wanted to overthrow God. Well, that would be the same as this Luciferian principle, which is, it wants to try and there's not. I'm not intentionally saying that this is anything to be deemed as negative. It's like, because anything in the spiritual realms anything can be done. Spirit can do anything that it wants to do, so long as it's not imposing upon free will choice of another being. So if it wants to go off and experience time in its own way, then spirit has all the free will to do so. But it just goes against all of the cycles of the universal principles, which is, the natural cycles of time and the natural cycles of nature, which have been thrown off by the Anno Domini calendar. And so that throws off all our cycles. And so once our cycles of time is thrown off, then our entire perception is thrown off. Our entire mental process, our entire aspect of consciousness is thrown out of balance and can be limited and therefore easily controlled. Because if we're not in tune with nature, we don't have our connection with eternal source of this universal law, of this universal principle that is inherent in all of life and all of nature and all these cycles of time.
Well, to back up what you're saying there, I think it's pretty safe to say that in modern society we have been very much separated from what we really should be connected to, which is our spirituality.
Yes, exactly. And it's mostly all controlled by commerce. And of course, commerce, anyone that does a good amount of research into the origins of commerce and law and legalities and all of that goes right back to ancient Cana Phoenicia, who were the Cana Phoenicians. And anyone that wants to learn a lot about this, Jordan Maxwell is probably the most prominent researcher on this topic, and definitely probably the first to come out openly with all of this really in-depth research. Although, you don't want to get limit your perspective to just one person's perspective, but anyone can do this research for themselves, and he is a very great source to trigger your curiosity, to trigger your own, to trigger anyone's own path to study this stuff for themselves, because there are key words, there are key things to look up when anyone wants to get into this. But yeah, so the Cana Phoenicians worshipped the god El.
Well, you're on the right path as far as I understand it. El was a generic term for God, and then it also was specifically related to Saturn, hence where we get the terms like elevate, elect, that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, you're completely correct. All right, so we went back to the beginning of history, as far as, and probably either one of us knows. And what would you say is the next stage or the next step? What was that taken through? Like, we're talking about several thousands of years here.
You mean from Cana Phoenicia to modern times?
Right. Well, coming into modern times, I'm personally aware of the fact that a lot of the Saturn symbolism has certainly been carried over into today's time. But even before we get up into the modern age, what would you say is the next stage of Saturn's usage after we get out of, the ancient times? Where would you say we could focus next on its development and usage?
Well, it's basically, like all things, symbols, words, language, and any of these tools, as I like to think of them, they are all tools to be used to either gain wisdom, or in the case of this cult of Saturn, this dark priesthood, this black priesthood of Saturn, and I don't mean black as in skin color, I mean black as in black-robed judges, priests and everything as far as the church goes. The way they would use this is to, gain control over others. And so this has always evolved over time as tools of commerce and basically tools of mind control to paint people's perceptions.
And to make it clear out there, judges, Jewish priests, Catholic priests, and even a lot of Protestant priests, they all use black robes, and that does indeed originally come from Saturn, whose color was black.
Yes, exactly. I mean, once we begin to study these symbols and these rituals is what it all is. It's all ritual, and this, as well as, of course, we get to the black cube of Saturn, which is probably the next stage in the symbolism evolution from the zodiac wheel, from the eight spoked wheel, which was also deemed as the medicine wheel in Native American cultures, as well as all cultures had the eight-spoked wheel of the zodiac, signifying the ages and the cycles of time and nature. And then it gets into the religious aspect of it, which it begins to, which comes from the Cana-Phoenicians, who were the ancient Hebrew priest class, practicing, getting into like Kabbalah and all of that, which today in modern religions we have the black cube, as well as modern Judaism and Zionism, which all has the black cube, which, I mean, when you start to study the black cube, you see that it's everywhere. You get from commerce to banking to religions, the black cube of Mecca, where they circle counterclockwise around the black cube, which is the same as the cube on the North Pole of Saturn, which is actually a hexagon, but when viewed three-dimensionally as opposed to two-dimensionally, the hexagon is just a cube from an angle of perspective, and the pole around Saturn flows counterclockwise from viewing it from the North Pole. And
there is the hexagon storm or whatever it is on the North Pole.
Exactly. And so that's where we get the term hex. As far as like witchcraft goes, is you are hexed, which the hex is also, it's the X, which is where we get exoteric. It is from you are excluded, you are exiled, you are excommunicated from the inner house of wisdom, which is the inner body of Saturn. And the X would be the outer rings of Saturn, where again, you are beating around the bush if you're caught in the false lies of the false facades that are propagated to the masses via things like mainstream media and other avenues of institutions like universities, which is why when you graduate from a university, you have been gradually 8, which 8 is the number of Saturn, as well as the number 9, which is where we have the 9 square, the magic cube of Saturn, which is the magic 9 square, where all the numbers add up to 9, which is where we play that magic 9 square game in school or whatever to kill time. To kill time? You mean like father time? You mean like in mythology? You mean like the god Saturn, or Cronus, who ate his own children gradually? He gradually ate his own children, so they graduate. So and when we graduate, or we get gradually indoctrinated.
Your graduation.
Yeah, exactly. We wear the black robe of Saturn
and the mortarboard.
And the mortarboard, the black cube on our heads, which the mortarboard is the Masonic tool which you mix cement on. And
let's also not forget the black cube of the 24-hour Apple store in Manhattan.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
I loved that one when I saw it.
And the apple, I mean the app of El, and we take a bite. The symbol for apple is the apple with the bite taken out of it. Goes back to biblical allegory. I'm not going to say biblical history because it's not his story. It's just allegory. It's just symbolism.
Correct.
It's all code, and goes back to taking a bite out of wisdom, taking a bite out of knowledge, out of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, aka this realm of duality, of polarity, of good and bad, light versus dark, of infinite reincarnation cycle. And so when we graduate from school, we wear the mortarboard on our head, which is used to mix cement in masonry, and This is why we're just another brick in the wall, all in all, because we have been polished. In masonry, we start off as a rough stone. We are an unpolished stone. And in masonry, the perfect form is a 90-degree angle, which in astrology and astrotheology, a 90-degree angle as far as energy is concerned is not the most perfect form. Because if you think of energy flowing, energy hits that right angle and it has nowhere to go. It comes to a dead end. Energy hits that right angle and it can't continuously flow fluidly. But a trine or a trinity or a triang of L, the triang of L, meaning the tri, and ang meaning bull, which this is one of the most prominent aspects of this research. As you start to research that L is the bull god, and Saturn L is the bull god, and this is why the Illuminati and this dark priesthood cult of Saturn, the L-lights, the worshippers of L, worship the bull god. And this is why you always see the bull symbolism everywhere we look is the bull of Wall Street, the bull of Chicago, the bull market. Goes back to every ancient culture, every ancient mythology. Even, and most people have always said, will say to me, whatever, all cultures don't worship the bull god and don't come from the worship of Saturn or the bull god Saturn. Well, they actually do, and they're like, no, all the religions aren't controlled by the Illuminati. All religions aren't controlled by this dark priesthood of Saturn. Well, when you look deep enough and when you look and find the connections between all these things, rather than only looking for the differences, there are far more similarities in everything than there are differences. When we start looking for the similarities in all things as opposed to the differences, then we start to see pictures, we start to see the puzzle come together. We start to see the big picture. We start to see things connect. And this is one of my personal focuses, is syncretism, which syncretism is connecting all things and finding common bonds between them, as opposed to being separated by these cultural programs that tell us that everything is separate, that all religions are separate, that all cultures are separated by time and space. They are separated by distance, and so therefore they don't share roots and common bonds. Well, everything shares a common bond because it all comes from a same universal source, a universal truth. And it all comes from the bull god, who is El, because the very word El in Paleo-Hebrew is the name of God of ancient Cana Phoenicia. And when you get into the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, the Aleph Bet, the name El, the name of the God El, of the Hebrew God of the Bible, El, is spelled A-L. In modern English alphabet is A-L, not E-L, because in Paleo-Hebrew it's A-L, and the Aleph is the first letter of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, which is the Cana Phoenician alphabet. And so the Aleph comes from the ancient Paleo-Hebrew pictograph, which was a bull's head. It was a pictograph of a bull, of the bull's head and the bull's horns. And this is where you'll have to see the pictures and the images to actually get the full understanding of what I'm conveying here. But if you look it up, the pictograph of the Paleo-Hebrew Aleph is the bull's head. And this is why our letter A is the upside down bull's head. If you picture the A, it is a bull's head upside down. There are two horns with the triangle, which is the bull's face, and the two horns going up. So flip an A upside down, it is a bull's head. And this was the ancient Paleo-Hebrew depiction of the letter Aleph. And today, the modern letter A is the symbol of air. It's the air sign, which is the truncated pyramid, which is the symbol of the Illuminati, the pyramid with the capstone elevated into aloft in the air, like the Hebrew letter Yod, which is found aloft in the air, like Yoda floats aloft in the air, which is Jordan Maxwell explains this again all very well, is that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were anything but stupid.
Exactly.
They were masters of, I'm not sure about Steven Spielberg, but I know George Lucas is a master of Kabbalistic tradition and Paleo-Hebrew, or at least maybe, just these Hebrew traditions,
Well, he's admitted to studying mythology in depth.
Really? See, I didn't know that, but I do know that if you look at the connections, just look at the simple connections, and I wrote a very good article about that here, which I can refer to real quick, just so that I don't get off track while I'm talking about this. But when you look into the Star Wars, the movie Star Wars, there is Kabbalistic symbolism and Saturn symbolism all throughout it. So I'm looking over my note that I put out on Facebook right now. It's called El, the Illuminati bull god of the Bible. And it breaks down El, Saturn symbol, Saturn worship, and as well as the Moloch from ancient Cana Phoenicia, which is the bull god. So the symbolism contained in the film Star Wars, you can start it off, okay, the constellation of Taurus in astronomy has a star which is known as the bullseye, which is a red. It's an orange giant star, but it's known as the bullseye because it can be seen as a red star in the sky in the constellation of Taurus. And this is where we get our corporate symbol of Target, which is the red bullseye symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and also that star's name, the bullseye, the red bullseye of the constellation Taurus, which is the bull constellation, is that star's name is Aldebaran, also known as Alpha Tauri, and it's the brightest star in the constellation of Taurus, making it the Alpha, or the Most High, as in El, the Most High bull god of the Bible, who is the god of the Bible is El, the Most High. So the Alpha is the Most High, which is why it's Aldebaran is the Alpha Tauri, or the Alpha Bull. And in the constellation of Taurus is, so again, that's where we get these symbols from. And to be better acquainted with Aldebaran, we might know it from the film Star Wars as Alderaan. Just take out the B and the A in there, and you have Alderaan from the film Star Wars, written by George Lucas.
Not just coincidence.
And not just coincidence. He was obviously very well versed in Hebrew occultism and probably Kabbalistic traditions as well, and all this symbolism and the language, especially the language and the words and the symbolism. And so this is where we see key words that give clues to this, such as Yoda, which the Yod is the Hebrew letter, which is the Most High. It's aloft in the air, which is why Yoda floats around in the air, and which is why when you get into numerology, he is 900 years old, and after 900 he is reborn again into the One, which in numerology there is only 9 letters. Because once it gets to 10, it's actually just revert that back to 1. 1 plus 0 equals 1.
Right.
So there are only 9 numbers, and this also goes back to vortex mathematics as well. It's a base 10 system, and there are only 9 numbers in this system, because in numerology, base numerology, and as well as gematria, there are only 9 letters. So, and also Alderaan, Yoda, you have Qigong and Qui-Gon Jinn, which is Qigong, which is
I noticed that one.
Is a form of energy work, and Jinn coming from the Sufi and the Islamic traditions and the Hindu traditions. The Jinn are known as I'm not too well versed in the jinn, but you can look these up.
It's a genie spirit, if I remember correctly.
Exactly, it is a genie spirit. It can be perceived as the demiurge in many of these esoteric teachings. The demiurge, which is not the one true creator. It's these false man-made gods that we attribute, such as the bull god. The bull god El could be, it's the demiurge. It's not the true creator of everything. It's the man-made creation, that it's these idol worship, like from the Bible, the golden calf, which is, the idol worship of the bull god. El from the Bible, who is Saturn, who is Cronus, because Cronus was the god of Cana Phoenicia, and who was in mythology, he was deemed as the founder of the city of Byblos, which was Byblos was known as the city of the twin bulls. And so this is where and Byblos is where the etymological root from where we get our word Bible. And Bible, bi meaning two, bull meaning bull. So two bulls, the city of twin bulls.
Not really hard to put that one together, eh?
No, it's very simple. It's all in the sounds. It's all in the phonics, which comes from Phoenicia, which is the phonetics, which is the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, which gives us our modern English alphabet, which is the tool of all control and all commerce through language, through court systems, through legal systems. Mm-hmm. It's all Saturn worship. It is all comes from this ancient Cana Phoenician death cult. It's a sacrifice death cult who the Cana Phoenicians in the city of the twin bulls of Byblos, which gives us our modern word of Bible, because Byblos was an ancient Greek word which meant book, or biblios, which is again where we get our word Bible. So so what they would do is they had a practice that they would sacrifice a bull to the bull god El in order to appease him for the harvest, and they would offer burnt sacrifices of two bulls, and they would as well as this goes to the Temple of Solomon in the Bible. They would have an altar to the Most High bull god El, and they would offer blood ritual sacrifices to El, and they would had a ritual where they would drink the bull's blood out of a bowl, which the etymology of the word bowl comes from the bull. Bowl is linked to bull etymologically. If you study the roots of these words, they're all connected. So the bowl comes from the bull. And this is why they would drink the bull's blood from the bowl, which is where we get our modern traditions which is where we get our modern Red Bull, because you're drinking the red, symbolically you're drinking the Red Bull's blood. Mm-hmm. And the logo for the Red Bull is the Bi-Bulls. It's the twin bulls.
Which gives you energy.
Which gives you energy. And their motto is it gives you wings, like the ancient Babylonian and Mesopotamian bull god of the Shedu, who was the winged bull, who flew through the air, which is why Michael Jordan is the Red Bull, who flies through the air. Michael Air Jordan, who flies through the air. He's the ancient Babylonian winged bull. And, of course, his number is 23, and he flies through the air just like the Babylonian winged bull, which is, all these things are connected. And so, again, this goes back to the letter A, which is the truncated pyramid, which is the air symbol. So, which is the symbol of the Illuminati, the truncated pyramid with the capstone elevated in the air or aloft in the air. Sorry I go off on tangents, but
on a side note, actually, before we go further than that, I don't know at what point Yoda's name was changed to Yoda, but I recall reading a book on the original scripts for the first 3 movies years ago, and Yoda's name was Midge Midge. His description was the same, little green fellow. But at some point, someone, I'm going to guess George Lucas, changed it from Midge to Yoda. So that sounds so directly intentional to me, just based off of the little things we've been talking about here. It sounds like that absolutely the symbolism was intentionally put in there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everything that we see in Hollywood, on film screens, on any sort of screen as far as TV or Hollywood movies go, everything, every single symbol, every frame, every visual is carefully, strategically placed there for a specific reason. Nothing is placed there by chance or by accident.
Hollywood, because the magic wands were made from the wood of a holly tree?
Exactly.
Like Harry Potter's wand was made from Hollywood?
His magic wand, yes.
I always thought that was interesting. And what does J.K. Rowling know?
She knows, I guess, esoteric occult knowledge, which I'm not sure about her, but yeah, this is all very. There's so much symbolism in that as well. I mean, going back to. Oh, just so much. I haven't gone into the Harry Potter symbolism myself personally, but yeah, it's all Hollywood black magic, which is the dark priesthood, it's all Saturn worship. It is all programming. It's all mind control via our perceptions, via symbols, images. And it paints a picture in our subconscious mind, whether the conscious mind is aware of it or not. The subconscious mind knows all of these things, and when we are ruled from the unconscious, our perceptions can be influenced, and therefore, once our perceptions are influenced, our behaviors can be influenced.
To what end? A lot of people have asked me.
Basically, to make us easily manipulated. Jordan Maxwell always puts this very, very simply. It's to keep us satiated, to keep us entertained, to keep us to not know what is actually going on, to be our own sovereign beings, our own rulers over our own sovereignty, over our own lives. It's so that it keeps us externalizing our own power into someone else, into an external authority, such as government, meaning mind control, govern, the Latin root to steer or control, and ment, Latin root meaning mind. So that is what I see the ultimate ends of all these, the symbols, the language, all of these occult esoteric teachings is it's all hidden in order to maintain control over the population, in order to keep them subservient to the master, to keep them entertained. It's all ancient Roman. It comes from Cana Phoenicia, but then which was passed on, and the torch was sort of taken up by ancient Rome, who conquered. Their motto was to divide and conquer, and another one of their mottos was give them bread and games while we go out and conquer the world.
Well, I use that term actually in a lot of conversations, that the great big distractions we have between all the alcohol, pizza, beer, TV shows, all that nonsense, I just call it a modern day bread and circuses, because that's exactly what it is. Yep.
That's exactly what it is. It's all just the pointless bullshit, the bullshit that's not important in our lives. I mean, it's trivial, it's shallow, it's not helping us to relate to other cultures. It's this American, it's America. It's it's this Western philosophy of that somehow America is number one, and most Americans never ever actually get outside the country. Well, because that's obviously because it's a form of control. The government does not want us, to go outside the country to see the world. They don't want us to experience other cultures. to see how similar we all are as a human species, how related, how we all want the same things out of life. We want a good home, we want good food, we want clean air, we want clean water, and we're all the same essentially at the base core level. So yeah, we are all connected at a universal conscious level, because consciousness cannot be separated, it cannot be divided, but the perception of who we are, of what we are, which is our perception, what Hollywood and government and this cult of Saturn, which worships the material, physical, tangible realm, it wants to keep us trapped in this realm of infinite incarnation. And I use the term infinite, not meaning limitless, because if you break down the word itself, you are infinite. You are in finite existence, meaning you are limited as long as you are infinite, which is, again, back to the lemniscate, the infinity symbol, the hourglass, the 8, the number 8, which is the 8-spoked wheel of Saturn. So they want us to be limited in this realm of to think that this realm of physical, tangible reality is all that there is, as opposed to that there is we are infinite spiritual beings that exist on a quantum level that, when you break down, is not solid at all. It is we are energy, we are life, pure life force, that everything is pure life force. Even solid matter, when broken down at a quantum level, is not solid at all.
No, not at all. Everything is energy vibrating at different wavelengths.
Exactly, especially lengths of light and sound, and that is what we are. We are pure light. We are not these physical, tangible, material goods that we buy, and we are not the car that we drive. We are not the house that we acquire. All of these things are tools to help us achieve what we came here to achieve in life, which is to learn to love each other, to learn to transcend this physical realm, and to have our feet on the ground with our head in the stars at the same time. Not to float away in the clouds looking for some external God outside of us, as the religions would have us believe, that God is something outside of us that we need to appeal to, or else we will suffer horrendous consequences, which is all programming of these ancient dark priesthoods. Which the reason that all of this religious programming is like that is because they wanted to gain control by basically selling spirituality. By the ancient Egyptian scribes would sell a book of the dead in order to transfer the souls into the afterlife by purchasing one of these scrolls from the scribbling scribes who wrote down these books of the dead and charged immense. You had to be incredibly wealthy to purchase one of these books of the dead to to guide your soul into the afterlife, into the fields of Elysium, as they saw it.
Mm-hmm. It's been a scam since way back when. Exactly,
and so this dark priesthood of Saturn goes way back, and this is how they deceived everyone. It was just, not really anything. It's nothing personal. It's just business. This is what I can't personally comprehend myself. How anyone could really think business is, think of business so highly. I guess these Wall Street bankers or whatever. I just don't see how it can be so worth it, to basically to worship money, to worship commerce, because I guess the reason why is because, it's like playing a game of Monopoly. If you control the board, you get this feeling of, ooh, I control everything. I control the chessboard. I control the game. I control the entire board. So yay, that makes me feel, powerful. That gives me a sense of power, when it's really just a game. And as long as they're playing that game, they are trapped inside the game as well. So they are trapped in this cycle of perpetual reincarnation, and they feel that they aren't able to progress, to transcend this realm of physical incarnation. So therefore they feel the need to hold everyone else back as well, to keep everyone else in this game of endless commerce and reincarnation cycles of infinite time. And when I say infinite, I don't mean, well, yeah, it's endless time. It's the realm of time, which is the bounded infinity. You are bounded in finite time, the realm of Saturn, of the hourglass. So if they can control the game, then they can keep reincarnating into this reality, and they can keep controlling it through their genetic bloodlines, which, when we study genetics and genealogy, and when we study epigenetics as well, we learn that information and memory is stored in DNA. So when they pass down this information through their royal bloodlines and their elite bloodlines, then they pass down this knowledge, this ancient tradition. They pass it down in their bloodlines, in the DNA itself. And so therefore they can continually control this reality by passing that along. And so they want to keep all of us trapped in this game as well, when we're literally just here to learn. We are here for a limited amount of time to evolve our souls, to expand our spiritual growth, to learn to connect with each other, to relate to each other in more expansive ways, beyond the material goods, beyond the commerce, beyond all of these forms of control. And when I say control, I don't mean it like necessarily. It doesn't even have to be a direct intentional force. It could just be, something that just kind of, something in the collective unconscious, that sort of evolved over time, or it could be intentional. Honestly, I'm not too sure about that myself. Or it could be both. It could be intentional, and it could also be just. But one thing that it's not is it's not human nature. We are not these animalistic beings that mainstream science would have us believe, evolution, Darwinian institutions would have us. We are not these. We are not these. That's not human nature. Is to fight and conflict with each other. It's not to to divide each other and to separate and to want to put each other into slavery. That is not human nature. That is this dark priesthood, which is basically is an external. They're a manifestation of the collective unconscious, which is the R complex of the brain, which is the most primitive evolution of the human anatomy, which is the reptilian portion of the brain. It's the most primitive form of the brain, which is associated to survival, to fight or flight mechanisms. So it wants to perpetuate its own existence. It can't conceive of itself as being a spiritual being outside of this, outside of this physical reality. It can't conceive of that. It's only concerned with collecting as much material wealth as it can in this moment to perpetuate its own existence. It's a virus of the mind. It's a parasitic way of thinking, It's a cancer of the mind. It wants to spread as it wants to spread as much as it can without without being checked, without being balanced. It wants to just perpetuate its own existence and just reproduce virally as much as it can. And the way it does that is through viral media, through mainstream media, through Hollywood television, television programming.
Programming, because they're programming you.
Exactly. We don't see how it's done until we start to see the symbols and the language and how it's all in the words. And I don't mean mind control as in like strap you down to a chair and probe you with electrodes, although that is a form of mind control, and that is also used in these dark Saturnian underground Masonic cults,
yeah.
Satanic cults. They do use that type of mind control, although that's not the type of mind control that they use for the masses. For the mass in order to control an entire population, you have to do it subtly. You have to do it from the unconscious. They can't come out and do it by force, because we would catch on to them and we would be like, hey, we're going to kick your ass. We're going to team up and, kick your ass if you try and, impose your will on the entire population. It's not going to happen, which is what most people are waking up to now. But most people still aren't awake to the fact that how it's being used on a frequency level, on a subconscious level, in the sounds, in the pop culture, in the music.
No, I would say overall they're actually pretty successful, because look how many jellyfish are out there. Just, they like to call us useless eaters, and in fact, they've kind of constructed that with a lot of people. That's their term.
That's funny, because that's funny that you say that, because I haven't actually heard that term until just recently. I saw someone exposing this video of Mark Dice, who was talking about the recent Robin Williams Family Guy sacrifice connection.
Oh, I saw that one.
Yeah, and Mark Dice specifically mentioned all the useless eaters, quote unquote. So
yeah,
it's funny that he said that exact same thing, and that's funny that you say that that's how they refer to us. And so what does that obviously make Mark Dice? Well, he's obviously a paid COINTELPRO fucking shill. So
I don't know. I hear that said a lot about people like Mark Dice and Alex Jones. Mark, I know, studies a lot of this Illuminati symbolism. That's why I think he would have used that term. Now, if they're paid,
I don't know a damn thing about the guy, but
I don't know him personally. I don't know. I don't buy into the whole Alex Jones is evil and Mark Dice is evil. The only thing I question about both of them, to be perfectly honest with you, is how they can study this information and still think that Christianity is real.
Exactly.
That's my big, really?
Yeah.
How do you interview someone like Jordan Maxwell, who will go on and on and on about astrotheology and where all that symbolism comes from, but they're diehard Christians? They think that really happened, and it's just like, I don't understand. I'm not going to bash anyone's religions. If that's what you need, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you understand so much, yet fail in that one aspect.
Epic fail, man.
Well, that's the way I see it, but that's not the way they see it, and who am I to judge?
That's a perfect point that you bring up, right? So that is a huge red flag. That is a major red flag. So I have nothing against the person themselves. I have nothing against Alex Jones as a person, because honestly, he obviously interviewed Jordan Maxwell, so he does have bits of truth, and he does put out bits of truth. However, there are those red flags, like you just pointed out, that how can you get this deep into this information and still have those programs?
Because like a lot of people claim to have religious experiences, and I think certain people I think a lot of people, to be honest with you, need to put a label on something. Like, they need to say, well, this is what it is. I've had spiritual experiences, but I've never seen or experienced anything. I've seen a lot of things, to be honest with you, but I've never seen or experienced anything that makes me think any religion has got it right. Not like organized, out of a book. I know that spirituality is real. I know that I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. But nothing has convinced me, not even a little bit, that any religion on planet Earth has got it right.
Yeah, exactly. But however, there are bits there is a universal truth underlying all of these teachings and these religions, but it's wrapped up in allegory, and it's wrapped up in symbolism, and it's wrapped up and they're taught in parables and a paradox which is a paradox, and a parable. Literally, at its root meaning, it means bullshit. There are universal truths underlying all of these things, but they are wrapped up in exoteric bullshit to keep the masses beating around the bush from getting to that universal truth at the core, which is wrapped up in allegory and symbolism. And when you view it from the anagogic, which is meaning to see through the literal, is to see through it as a literal history, and to see it as a symbolic, metaphorical meaning that gives you a sense of how to live, of how to of a universal truth, a common bond between all of us that's hidden underneath there. So again, that goes back to the esoteric and the exoteric, and the parable comes from Greek parabole, and bole itself is the root word for bull in etymology.
So there we have the bull again.
Exactly, and para means beside, which means if to be beside something, there has to be a side A. And look, when you break down the phonics of the very word beside, B-side, it's B-side because there has to be an A side. There's side A, and then there's side B. So there's twin aspects there. There's two aspects. There's twin pillars. There's Masonic twin pillars there, which anyone that studies Freemasonry and esoteric teachings knows that, especially Jordan Maxwell will talk about this as well.
Moab and Boaz.
Joachim and Boaz, and the twin towers and the twin pillars of the sun and the moon. So the para means the two. It means the beside of. So, and bole meaning the bull. So again, it's the twin bulls. It's the bi-bulls. It's the Bible, and the Bibles mean there's the alpha bull, and then there's the beta bull. There's the older, wiser, more experienced bull, and then there's the younger bull who learns from him. And this goes to the Old Testament, where the Hebrews say that they view El as God, they view El as God, who is the more experienced, wiser bull, and they as the younger bull who learns from him. So, and I have to give my credit for all of this stuff that I'm talking about to Trutheresy, House of Wisdom, Christopher Lord on YouTube, as well as he's got his own blog, which is trutheresy.blogspot.com. He's the original, and he basically got on this symbolism, language etymology, and all of this stuff. Also, from learning about some of this research from Jordan Maxwell. Only he also expanded on it and came up and just discovered so much original stuff that, I mean, he's gone into such depth that he's the only person that I've ever come across whose level of research and in-depth research has, is on the same level, if not even deeper than Jordan Maxwell's research. I mean, although Jordan's been doing it for over, 40 years now, or how or long
50, I think.
50 years. Damn. So yeah, but Christopher Lord has been doing it for about 10 years, but he is gone. I mean, as we know, today in today's age, we can find so much more information than we ever could back in the day. So this makes it allows us to have access to so much more information than we ever could before. So,
Well, all of us, we have the benefit of people like Jordan, who I believe was the first, at least the first very public person to put this kind of knowledge out there. Now we have the internet, and we can all exchange information, but he didn't have that advantage.
yeah, I can't even imagine having to go. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of time.
Oh, he talks about it, how he would just go into libraries for hours and hours and hours photocopying things, how he just have giant boxes full of things he photocopied. And, can you imagine? I mean, up until the 90s, that is how it would have had to have been done.
I know. I really can't imagine. I can't imagine it. Like, although that makes it kind of fun in itself, because it's like a whole adventure in itself. Because it takes a lot more effort. So you really got to be dedicated.
Yeah, I would say he definitely was dedicated.
Plus, the good thing about that is you didn't have all these fucking disinfo, sites and trolls everywhere, out there literally just putting out a bunch of bullshit, so that when you go looking something up, your first thing you're confronted with is
nonsense.
A bunch of misinformation and disinformation. So, I mean, that's the good part about, not having all of this access was, he basically had direct access to original documents and original research. But
well, from what I understand, I've cross-checked a lot of his information, especially in my earlier days of researching this sort of thing, and he seems pretty spot on as far as I could tell. Didn't seem like he was putting out anything that could be misconstrued as disinformation or incorrect.
No, definitely not. That's the thing, is that that's the thing about truth, is anyone can go and corroborate this information from multiple different sources. Like yeah, it's one thing if you get your information from one source, then you don't necessarily, it doesn't have that same credibility.
Well, then you're relying on that person's strengths and flaws and no one else's.
Exactly, and therefore, you sort of relinquish your own sovereignty. You relinquish your own power, and you give it over to someone else, because you're trusting their opinion, or you're trusting their perspective rather than necessarily your own. But when I see things as, again, a trinity, as it's like a GPS, your own GPS map. And in order for a GPS to accurately depict your location in space and time, you need 3 points of reference. So, and this is what I see as far as like consciousness awakening goes. Like when someone hears this type of information for the first time, they're usually too programmed, and they're like, that's fucking ridiculous. You sound like this is tinfoil hat shit.
Tinfoil hat, yep. I love that.
But when it comes from a second source, a second totally separate, unrelated source, then they're like, okay, well, there might be something to this, since, well, all these people must be mind controlled, and they're all spouting a bunch of bullshit. But then when they see it from a third unrelated source, then the picture clicks, because then you have the triangulation, you have the trinity, and you have the GPS triangulates your location in space and time, and all of a sudden you have this. You go, holy shit! Okay, now I better start paying attention, because now there might be something to this. And then hopefully, if all conditions are right, then they'll go start looking something up for themselves and actually, getting to the bottom of things on their own, as opposed to just, passing it being ignorant of it and ignoring it, or, just passing it off as bullshit. But yeah, so also, that goes to the third eye symbolism. I mean, we've got two physical eyes. I mean, But just seeing the world through those two eyes, we can still be controlled. We can still be deceived. We can still be we can still be caught in illusions with seeing things through just these two physical eyes. But when we triangulate our vision triangulate it with the third eye, the inner eye that sees within, that sees the intangible realms, that creates the triangle, the triangle of L. That like I was saying, the vortex-based mathematics that creates that intangible axis. It's the 3, 6, 9 axis that Nikola Tesla spoke about, the 3, the 6, and the 9. And again, the number 9, when you start to look into the significance of the number 9, actually all of these numbers, the 3, the 6, and the 9, I mean, you will start to literally see the symbolism, the stories, the songs, the lyrics, all of these dots start to connect once we see these things. And like Nikola Tesla said, you do have a key to the universe by knowing the secrets of the 3, the 6, and the 9, because that is the intangible realm. That's the realm outside of time, outside of the control of the physical realm of Saturn, of the physical reality, the Lord of Time, the infinite existence. I mean, so it takes that triangulation, it takes that third eye, it takes that 3 sources of cross-referencing to get our own truth, to be able to become relevant, to become clear.
Well, to tie it all together, because we are going over an hour here, and we'll see if we can kind of put a capstone on this. Where do you feel all this leads us to today? What is Saturn's role in modern Western culture?
Well, there is the perceived role of it as far as the Elites are concerned, which is to continue ruling each other and to continue dividing each other by deceiving each other and trapping each other in this realm of infinite reincarnation cycles into this physical reality where they have control of the game. Or we take control of our own sovereignty by learning these secrets and no longer ignoring it, no longer passing it off as, oh, well, this is dark and scary, so I'm, just going to tuck my head in the sand and go back to sleep. Or, oh, this isn't love and light, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. Or, because honestly, I don't see how people can think that way, because for me, this stuff there is dark stuff that people do with this information, but it's just information. It's only how people use it these are symbols, it's language. I don't see how it can be used for ill purposes when it's brought to light, when it's brought to the conscious awareness. So that is the key for us in this day and age, is in this age of awakening, in this age of information, is the only crime in the only crime in the age of information is to remain ignorant.
I agree.
Is to ignore things. And that doesn't mean that we have to necessarily, obsess over it or get compulsive over it. And everything is about balance. It's about looking at it but not dwelling on it, observing it but not getting sucked into it, not getting caught in the vortex of it. And it's being aware of it, but not worshiping it, like the fucking Elite cult of Saturn. Like they fucking worship this shit. Like in astrology, none of these things are in astrotheology and astrology. None of these things are inherently negative. Everything is neutral, and it's only when we get polarized into either a good or a bad, a positive and negative, a light or a dark, that we get caught up in all of these forms of control, be it light or dark. Even the light is susceptible to being controlled. Hence the New Age, which is it's a Saturnian cult. The New Age movement, although there is truth based in it, for the most part it's designed another control mechanism to keep people from looking at the truth of the shadow aspect. It's to keep them, looking the other way while they go and do all this shit in the shadows.
It's only one facet of a much greater thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, basically, my recommendation to everyone is to study etymology, which is the root meanings. Etymology means the study of the true sense. It means to get to the true sense of things, not just language, not just words, but the true sense of everything. Study the etymology of everything, of cultures, of histories, of mythologies, of symbols, of languages, of words, of everything. Study etymology. There are great resources. There are online etymology dictionaries that I highly recommend going to. One of the best is etymonline.com, etymonline.com. Get yourself some physical etymology books, dictionaries if you want to, and don't limit yourself to scholarly authorized versions of history and authorized dictionaries. Because if you're looking in the authorized version, that means it was authorized by someone. Who authorized these versions? The authorized King James version of the Bible. Who authorized it? Well, there was it had to be filtered out. It had to be filtered through. It had to be authorized. Or in other words, it's not the true version of it. It's the authorized version.
It's what one person or group of people wanted you to see, and nothing more.
Exactly. So although that helps, but it's only one aspect. We want to look at all aspects and put the whole all the pieces of the puzzle together to get the whole picture. We don't want to look at just one source, just trusting our education, just trusting our degree, which of course we get a degree because it's Masonic, because it's Illuminati. We get degrees. So I mean, we don't need degrees. We don't need degrees to become enlightened. We don't need masonry to become enlightened, or we don't need universities to become enlightened, or become an alumni, which is to become an Illuminati, just become illumed or alumned. So we don't need any of these things. We just need to have the curiosity to look, to study, to look beyond the veil, to lift the veils of illusion, to look beyond the curtain, to lift that curtain, see the man behind it, and he's naked behind it, by the way, and it's not very impressive. The emperor has no clothes, and he's nothing to be impressed about. He's not working with a whole lot, so he should be very embarrassed. But yeah, so study everything, question everything, even your own, one's own belief systems, especially one's own belief systems. And of course, this can lead us into, states of neural plasticity, which at a time it can be very confusing. And that's when the disinformation and the trolls like to swoop in and steer us in a direction when we become vulnerable in that state of neuroplasticity, which is, we start to realize that all the religions that we were taught our whole life is bullshit. But we start to see everything else and we're like, oh, well, I don't know what to believe anymore because everything I knew is now proven to be a lie. So now I don't know what to believe in. Well, that's a brief state of it's a state of vulnerability in between states of order. That's a state of chaos in between higher levels of order.
Well, you could put the beliefs off to the side and start learning some facts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's to, and also just to use discernment, to not lose your rationality, not lose your credibility. Stay credible, stay rational, but don't polarize yourself into that. But you need that aspect. Don't get caught, floating away in the clouds, or thinking that we're gonna be raptured off into whatever, ascend into some other realm, or those are all forms of control. Stay rational, stay rooted in reality, but be open to expand, to accept new information, to observe new information, not necessarily to accept it. We want to be able to observe all things without necessarily having to accept it as our own, as our own. It's, again, being able to entertain a thought without having to accept it as our own. And so therefore it's not being afraid to learn new things, not being afraid to study what we fear, because fear, I always say this, one of my favorite sayings that I say quite often is, if you fear something, study it. The fear only comes from that which is unknown. When it's things only seem ominous because we don't know about it. Once we study it, then we know about it, and once we know about it, therefore we no longer fear it, because we now have the knowledge, we now have the power, we now have the wisdom. Well, we have the knowledge to know how to act upon that knowledge, which then gives us wisdom. And once we have the wisdom, then we can no longer be controlled. We can no longer be manipulated. We can no longer be enslaved. We can't, as the Rolling Stones said, we won't be fooled again. And so there is truth hidden everywhere. We got to have eyes to see it. We got to have ears to be open to observe and to witness what others have to say, and so basically just
that would be the Who, but you're correct.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, there you go. It's all good though. So yeah, that's basically my summary.
Well, that was very well said, and absolutely you are spot on. Is there any websites, anything you want to get out for yourself?
My personal websites, I do most of all of my research from Facebook. It's basically my most effective platform and tool to get information out. And because it's so easy to share information on Facebook. Like I can write very elaborate notes, multimedia I can include YouTube links, high resolution photos, pack it with a lot of information, a lot of links, and all of that stuff. And for me, it's a lot easier to do than putting out blog posts for me. So I like to use Facebook. Go to my Facebook page. My community public page is called Lifting the Veil. And the actual URL address is facebook.com/takinghumanityback. And that's my main page where I do most of my research. I put out all kinds of infographics, mostly focusing on language etymology, a little bit of mythology, a lot of symbolism, as well as I cover vortex-based mathematics, zero-point energy, free energy technologies, off-grid living, exposing corruption, fraud, exposing the birth certificates fraud, exposing the legal systems, exposing the court systems. Everything that is truth, I'm doing it on that page. So go there. That's my main resource. I also have a personal page called Made Manifest. You can look me up there as well. If you want to connect with me personally. I always like to be personable. I always like to respond to people, to share my stuff on a grassroots level, because that's how this is done. We do this together. We do it from a grassroots level. We all connect and share our information personally, and that is how we get this done. That is how we get this information out. That is how we flip this pyramid upside down, and topple the house of cards. So those are basically my websites. That's where I do all my stuff. That's where you can find me at, contact me. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'd say we covered a lot of ground here tonight, and we should do this again sometime.
Yeah, definitely, man, for sure. I'm always open. I'm pretty much always available. Still getting used to the whole internet interviews and radio things, but I'll gradually get more and more poignant, more and more fluent as I go along. I'm more of a writer myself. My thoughts come out much more coherently as a writer, so that's what I prefer to do, is basically just write it, because I have time to, because like I said, my thoughts are all over the place, so I go back and edit and rearrange things so that it flows in a perfectly synchronous, fluent presentation. But I'm working on getting, my verbal aspect there as well. So I hope
you did just fine.
Right, I hope I've done some pretty good justice there.
You have. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Secrets of Saturn. We'll see you again.